Gas prices being the lowest they've been in 5 years. AAA estimates that 90% of Americans will celebrate this year's holiday with a road trip. Joining us with tips on proper driving etiquette to make your travel as pleasant as possible is author and the great-great-grandson of Emily Post herself, Daniel Post Senning. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be with you.
Great to have you. Now, we see a lot of this. I'm thinking road rage, people stealing parking places. What are some of the other big ones when it comes to bad driving etiquette?
Well, these days, it's the navigation system that I think is oftentimes one of the biggest potential trouble spots for people, because everyone depends on it and everyone uses it, but that also brings with it some potential problems.
Well, I find myself yelling at the navigation, yelling at Siri on the phone. Does that happen when people are driving, or am I alone?
No, you're not alone. I was recently on a trip myself, and I was this close to getting into a fight with my wife about the navigation system, and she was trying to be helpful, but I wanted to see it. I wanted to be sure that I was able to see it also. And those sorts of relationship issues, questions about how to interact with technology in the car, particularly between drivers and passengers, really fascinates me. Etiquette's really the relationship business, and it's those fundamental relationships that are so important.
Yeah, and technology is very helpful, of course, but I feel like it takes away some of the conversations we used to have in the car.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's a really tricky tool in that it can both be, it can be a delicious distraction on a long road trip to have an audio book or a podcast that everybody likes to listen to distract during that long trip. But when those distractions start to interfere with our relationships, when maybe that cell phone call gets a little long and the driver starts to feel like a captive audience, or when the passengers just disappear into their devices and the driver feels like they've been abandoned, or the passengers are just ignoring each other, then it starts to become a problem and a detriment to those relationships. So figuring out which expectations we have of each other and how to meet those is an important part of being good friends and good family.
Right. Now, what can we do to make those road trips seem a little bit shorter for the adults and the kids? Can we go back to playing some of those games we used to play as we drive?
I love that idea, and it could be the games that we played as kids in my car, the license plate game, Zip Zip Bury Your Horses, I Spy. It could also be a game that was built around new technology. Those new technologies are so much fun and they are so empowering, and as long as they're shared activities in the car, I think that's a really good way to leverage and use those technologies. As far as advice, I always tell people an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Anything you can do ahead of time mentally to prepare yourself for the potential stress or frustration of holiday driving is going to help a lot, but also physically preparing, making a bag that has some treats and talking to people ahead of time, anybody who's going to be involved, about a shared itinerary. Maybe you program that itinerary into your Sync 3 system that has waypoints along the way so you know how long it's going to be to lunch or the next rest area or the final destination.
Very helpful.
The final tip that I love to tell people that's going to help navigate that technology question between passenger and driver is magic words really are magic. Before you tell your car that you're going to make a call and call your mother and tell her that you're going to be there in half an hour, just telling your passenger that you're going to make that call, just saying, you know, I'm going to call mom and tell her we're going to be there in half an hour, is oftentimes enough to make that call both considerate and respectful instead of distracted and potentially disrespectful.
Right, and just relax. Maybe you give that space to someone else and say happy holidays. You can wait a few minutes.
Absolutely. A little bit of patience will go a long way this time of year.
Absolutely. Daniel Post Senning, thanks so much, and happy holidays to you. I hope it is stress-free.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay.